Are you ready to uplevel your marketing in maybe a new way? Today's episode is for you. We are talking with Dan Rawls all about how to connect and move away from networking into deeper relationships. We also have a question about if you should use a scheduling software on social media, and a few of my favorite things, and maybe a flop or two. Welcome to today's episode of Make It Happen. Welcome to Pick My Brain. If you have a question that you'd like to send in to me, please send it to Michelle@speakmichelle.com. Put Pick My Brain in the subject line, and then I can answer questions just like this for you on a future episode of Make It Happen. This question comes from Emily Rosen, who asked a question that I actually get asked very frequently. Anytime I'm speaking on social media, anytime I'm doing the marketing blueprint workshop, this is always a question I can expect from the audience. She says, do you recommend using a platform like Hootsuite to help you post or schedule? So I love Hootsuite. I actually used Hootsuite for lots of years on Twitter. I still use Hootsuite on Twitter, but I actually do not recommend you use any third-party posting or planning software that auto-populates for you on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook and Meta, depending on how you see this and when you see this, but they do not play well in the sandbox with others. And so they do not like any third-party scheduling platforms. They will lower in the algorithm anything that you send from a third-party site. So as convenient as it is to have a third-party scheduler, it actually will hurt you to be constantly posting. Now, you know I believe in the good, better, best philosophy. If the only thing you can do is schedule through a third-party software because that's all you have time for, then that's better than nothing. However, on Facebook and Instagram, you do have the ability to schedule your posts on business pages, and also through the Facebook Creator Studio, you can actually post to Instagram through that app on a desktop. It doesn't work on your phone, but if you are in your Facebook business page, you do have the ability to schedule for on Facebook at Meta and also on Instagram. If you're not ever using your desktop and you're always on your phone, then that probably won't work for you. But that might be a great reason to use Facebook, Meta, or Instagram on your desktop so that you can schedule that way. So the long story short is I am okay with scheduling, and I think scheduling will give you a lot of flexibility so that you can run the other aspects of your business. Even if you are a social media person and that's the only thing that you do, it will allow you some strategic planning in your social media, but just use the right tools in the right time so that you're not losing what you're trying to gain by posting online. Elizabeth, thank you for sending in this question. If you have a question, remember you can send it to Michelle@speakmichelle.com. Put Pick My Brain in the subject line and I will answer it on a future episode. Thanks for watching. Welcome to a special Make It Happen episode with a dear business friend of mine, Dan Rawls. Dan is an amazing human who I have known for over a decade, I think we figured out. We met a long time ago at a networking event. Dan has been working with the #1 nutritional company in the country for the last 30 years. But more than that, he is a good human, a great soul, someone that people call the king of networking in Utah. And Richard Paul Evans has also called him a savant. And so we're bringing him in to have a conversation today about connections. And I loved where we started before we started rolling the camera. And I'd love for you to share with our audience, what is the difference between networking and connecting?
Well, there's a lot of people, networking's not new. It's been around, word of mouth, and the whole concept of networking has been around forever, basically. And I think people confuse networking with connections. Why do people network? That's the question I would ask. Why do they go to an event? How does all this happen? Connections are people that can lead you to other people. And recently, I just had lunch with my daughter and she said, Dad, I just haven't met my people in college that she's now graduated. And she said, I would meet someone and we would do things for 6 or 8 weeks and then they would lead me to somebody else. And then I kind of hang out with that person now. And I just smiled as I was just listening to that because that's really a lot about life. It's about stepping stones and it's about the phases of where people are in life. And a lot of people think they know how to network, but it's important to learn to invest the time to learn how to network. And connections, it's not being there's a phrase I learned many years ago, needy is creepy. It's not like I'm that needy person and I'm almost creepy that if I don't sell you something or pitch you something, I don't like that word, but just if I don't have the sales mindset that, what's in it for me. And so I ask people all the time, who do you need to meet through me? Who do you need to meet through me? I go to mastermind business groups all the time, and someone says, I want to be a guest on 3 podcasts a month. And this guy's very good at what he does. And I said, I could arrange that for you. And so there's nothing in it for me at all. And I just arrange that connection. It's not a referral. It's not a client. It's not a customer. But the connections will lead you to bigger things in your life, business or personal. Yeah. There's a little image that I have, and it's a guy and a gal, and I think they're in a restaurant just at a bar top table, and she's looking like this, and it says, so are you interested in me, or are you networking, or what? And I still have that. I've had that for over 25 years, and it's networking is something you do a little bit of all the time. It's not something you do a lot of some of the time. So I'm much older than you, Michelle, but 30 years ago, 25 plus years ago in business, more people would work 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. Okay. Now, when do people work?
All the time.
A little bit all the time. They take their vacations, they ski, they go to the lake, whatever it is, but they're doing a little bit all the time. And something I learned many years ago is, it's a question. Do you believe you can network anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as you honor the event, even a funeral?
Sure.
And I learned that from a book over 10 years ago. And just last year, there was a pretty famous athlete who passed away unexpectedly, kind of shocked the world. And I went to a private celebration of life. And it was at a residence, and there was about 30 people there, 40 people. It was kind of his inner circle, and his business mentor was facilitating this discussion. And they asked me to share something personally, and I did for a few minutes. And after the event, the man that was his mentor came up to me and gave me a big hug and handed me his business card and goes, you seem like a genuine human being. You seem like someone I need to get to know. Could you call me? And I said, well, I go away for a while. I go to Tennessee, where I'm from. And I said, but I'll be in touch with you. And we sat down face to face 3 weeks ago for 90 minutes. But we kept in touch in the process. Sure. Because you have to do that. So even though I learned that in some book a decade ago, I've experienced it. I watched it happen. That I wasn't there to network. I didn't go to receiving of friends. Something I learned when I was younger is that weddings are optional, funerals are necessary. And at funerals, you can reconnect with people from your past and rekindle maybe a previous relationship or connection or business or something. So that's a long answer, but I think there's a difference in networking and connecting with people.
I would agree with that. My very first business, you know this about me, was a promotional products company. I started.
You printed everything but money.
Yes, pretty much. We printed on over 850,000 items, and I went to networking groups, and I thought I knew everything about the world at 19, and that I was the best. But one of the things that I quickly figured out was at the end of the day, they were not buying a pen. They were buying me. And there was lots of competition. There were lots of people who could do what I did. And I recognized that the difference would be the relationships that I built rather than the products that I was pushing. And I remember having that realization sitting at a Chamber of Commerce meeting in St. George, Utah. And then also going, but how do you do that? Like where are the books on connecting and building relationships? And I knew I needed to, but didn't know what to do. So I just started having conversations and talking to people. And I heard the phrase that I've heard you say before, what's in it for them, not for me. And I would just ask people, what's your next big thing? What's going on? And I would talk about their lives. And from there, I would try to call back and remember conversations and revisit those. And if the buying cycle took 18 months for somebody to actually purchase something from me, it didn't matter because I always had those relationships going. But it was a definite shift. But what happened that I loved And there's a question in here. I didn't mean to talk for so long, but what happened that I loved is that I was able to eliminate almost every other part of my marketing campaign. And I'm a huge marketer and I love all kinds of marketing. And this was back when they had phone book ads. I had phone book ads that didn't do me a darn thing but get me more sales calls.
Wow.
And over time, my ability to be able to build relationships, got referrals, got other things, and I was able to almost eliminate every other thing that I did and invested all of my marketing dollars into connections and conversations. So if you were to give advice to a young entrepreneur or even an established entrepreneur, if you had two main tips that you would provide that says, hey, here's how to build better connections, or here's how to handle the next networking event and not make it about sales, but make it about the right relationships, what would you offer?
Well, you're going to invest one of two things. You're going to invest lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money getting your word out there, whether it's all forms of advertising or ClickFunnels or all different forms of marketing. You're going to invest lots of money doing that. So see the billboards on the interstate, I-40 or I-15, that's easy. Throw $3,000 at a billboard, that's easy. It doesn't take any time and you can go on about your life. So if you have deep pockets and you can do that, great. But there's no trust associated with that at all. And there's a concept that I've taught for years called like, know, and trust. You have to like someone before you want to get to know them, and you have to get to know them before you can trust them. Let me just ask you, as a professional speaker that you are, do you like everybody that you know?
No, absolutely not.
Do you trust everybody that you like?
Not necessarily.
Are there people you would trust enough that you would give the keys to your house?
For sure.
Okay.
But just because much smaller.
Much smaller. But just because we met someone at a networking event and they're a good person, and maybe we've seen them once a month at an event for a year, does it mean they've jumped to trust? People just want to jump to trust. Here I am, just trust me. It just doesn't work that way. You have to cultivate that and take time. So you're going to invest lots and lots of time building relationships or money. You choose. It takes more time, but see, if you run an ad, any kind of marketing, you can track the dollars and the return on your investment. If you invest time going to events and meetings and shaking hands and hugging people and just getting to know people, most people don't track their time unless they're an attorney or a profession where it's billable hours. They just don't think about that. They're like, I've been coming to this group, I haven't really gotten anything out of it, and then people drop out. And that's why it's a cycle of high attrition, because they didn't get rich quick overnight. They didn't make the connections that they wanted overnight. I mean, I've seen people literally build a business and make a living off of a membership in an organization. I've watched that happen.
For sure.
I have someone that leads one of the groups that I'm part of now, and he told me last Thursday, he said in the last 12 months, the connections that I've made, I've gotten into real estate development, I'll net over $260,000. And that's not even from his main business. That's from something else that developed from the connections. And I said, where did that come from? And he told me the two people in the group, and I said, you owe me lunch. Because I introduced you to both of those people.
At the very least.
And I forget about that, because I mean, I ran into a guy in the mortgage business 5 months ago, and he goes, I just wanted to say thank you, because you introduced me to a lady 7 years ago, and I make $250,000 a year, and I'm 37 years old. And you gave me that introduction. I had no idea. You owe me lunch, just whatever. But it was, to me, it's just pay it forward and just help someone in this phase of life or this season of life get to the next step. So you're going to invest time or you're going to invest money. And the second thing is you have to be intentional about it. I watch people that go to events and they're armed and they're ready. They've got their purse or their portfolio, they've got their business cards, and then they go hang out in the corner with the two people in the room that they know, and their goal is, what time are we leaving? I got somewhere else to be. Rather than, I'm going to be intentional and I'm going to make one solid connection at this event. Maybe 2 or 3 loose connections casually. Hey, Michelle, could you introduce me to Jason, the rock star, or Ty, or this person here? And a lot of people think they're networking, but the follow-up lacks. That might be a different subtopic, but you're set a goal when you go to an event to just make one connection. How valuable would that be for you?
Very.
rather than just set a goal of one person that you can get to know and trust in 6 to 9 months. You know, I was on the phone Sunday with a friend of mine who's a former client of 10 years, and he's in his late 60s, maybe early 70s. And he said, you know, he's got a rock solid marriage, grown kids, grandkids. He said, good friends are hard to come by these days. And it's just the world we live in that people, it's just this cycle of just people fading in and out of your life. And you have to cultivate it. You have to work at it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and to your point, that relationships take time. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see with people in connecting is that they give up too soon. And they're evaluating a relationship. They're still evaluating a relationship off of a sale rather than having a relationship to have a relationship when you don't know what else it could lead to. So, I mean, there's two other places I really want to go before we wrap up our conversation, and we're not close to that yet. So I'm trying to decide which one I want to do first. I want to talk a little bit about Trustegrity, because I've been to a number of different networking and connection groups. I've been to the Chamber of Commerce. I did BNI for a long time. I did Corporate Alliance here in Utah. I've been to Women's Network, eWomen Network, and a handful of other specifically for women. And I know you have had similar experiences with lots of different groups. How did you come up with the idea of Trustegrity, and what would you say is its differentiating factor?
Well, it wasn't my idea. Someone called me about it back in 2019, and it was, I got on a plane and I flew from Tennessee to Las Vegas just to go to some meetings. But the difference is I've trusted this person for 20 years. I mean, I knew him. I watched him make millions of dollars, influence lots of people. And he said, hey, I ran across this company. I want to show it to you. And so I bought an airline ticket, and 4 days later flew to Las Vegas to just go to 3 meetings, just to see it. It was a visual operation. And instantly I really got that it was people that had graduated from Networking 101. You know, everybody has a time and a place. And I'm really in awe of you. I'm envious of you. I'm jealous of you, because you've just become a powerhouse in the public speaking world. And you don't know this about me, but in my deep heart, my core, I've always had a desire to be a professional speaker. I've really, really wanted to do it. There's 2 reasons that I haven't done it, but you can't dabble in it. It's one of the reasons. I mean, if you're going to do it, it's a full-time thing. But I've watched you go from where you were, where at that point, just to my point, you were at a phase and a season of life where the networking groups were of benefit to you. They were a stepping stone for you. And look at you now. Even if I was still part of that, I couldn't convince you to come because of where you are in your phase of life. But Trustegrity, what we're doing is, it's lonely at the top. That's really the whole message, whether it's Tyler, he has his own video business, or you as a professional speaker. Where do you go for advice? Where do you go for support? It's cheaper than counseling. That's what a lot of our members say. But it's a place where we have strong retention in some of our groups. In fact, there's one group that has only lost 2 people in the last 14 months. I would stack that up against any membership organization or any group or any chamber or anything anywhere in the world. And that's just impressive to me, because people are looking for lifelong relationships. They're tired of the in and out. In fact, there's a gal that I know that came to a meeting here in this local market a year ago. And she said, you know, my biggest challenge with networking is I invest all this time in building relationships, and then people quit 6 or 12 months and they drop out, and then I'm starting all over. Even though her group has 50 people in it, it's just this revolving door of just people in and out of their life, if that makes sense. Sure. And so Trustegrity, what's different is it's a place where people can just be authentic and take our societal mask off. One of my groups in Sandy, every single person was crying in the room the week before Christmas because of the person who led the discussion. It was the most amazing thing. It was incredible. There was not a dry eye in the room, and there was 26 people in the room. Show me a networking group where that'll happen. We're not a networking group. It won't happen in a networking group because every little thing you do or say affects people's perception of you as a professional. And you're a mom, and you're a wife, and you're a business owner, and guess what? You're not allowed to have any struggles because you're a professional motivational speaker. and you're just supposed to just show up and have it all together. Do you see where I'm going with that? And here, people get, well, she's got some amazing stories that's made her who she is, but this is a place where people can just be transparent and come. I went up to a man in San Diego when I was looking at Trust Integrity, and I said, 41 years you've owned your business. Why do you come to this little business group with 15 people? And he looked at me and he goes, what are you kidding me? It's so lonely at the top. This is my business support group. I have struggles in my business and I can't bounce that across my employees or my colleagues, but this group is my business family. I've never forgotten that. And his answer to that question was part of the reason that I chose to partner with this company.
I like that. And I like what you offer and what's there that builds that sense of camaraderie and connection. And I think what I've learned from you and learned from networking and connecting over the years and trying to graduate away from the network into building connections is that the ultimate goal is relationships, which we know, but it's commitment. It's a commitment to the relationship for a long period of time. And it's allowing people to be human. There are people that are some of my best clients and customers that I've had over even 15 years that have ebbed and flowed. Some that used to buy promotional products from me and have since hired me to speak, which is kind of a big jump in the world of,
huge shift,
of what that looks like. And yet the relationships and the connections were strong enough that they allowed me to be human and change, and vice versa. I can allow them to be human and make mistakes, and we still our relationships can stand the test of time. And that doesn't even mean that we have to be BFFs. We don't have to talk on the phone every single day. But at the end of the day, if that phone were to ring, I would pick up that call and we would have that conversation because of the time and the commitment to the relationship and the commitment to allowing the humanity of it too.
So as you talk about time, so I was part of an organization for many years, of which I became a member of in 1993, and the model met every single week. And I'm just in a phase in my life right now where it's not that I can't make a commitment to something every week. I've created my lifestyle from the lake or skiing or travel or doing life with my kids, that my son goes, Dad, that's crazy. Let's do this. And I said, Dawson, do you realize that 95% of your friends, their dads can't do that because they have a job and they have to show up? Sure, they're a doctor and they make a lot of money, but they have no freedom. Mm-hmm. And this model, what we're doing when I call someone like you and I say, hey, our group only meets once or twice a month. You can stomach that as a mom, as a business owner, but the weekly commitment is a huge deficit because people are like, I have so many other commitments every week. And so that's been also a breath of fresh air that people, they're not tied down to something on it. And I used to teach that, for 25 years, which is interesting. And the other thing is showing up and building relationships. And we just live in this microwave society of 2 clicks and we have whatever we want, whatever that is, whether it's Amazon or buying a product or groceries or anything. And it just takes time to cultivate those relationships. So
I also think that it takes a powerful F word. And if I were to call you anything, I would call you the master at follow-up. You are incredible about following up, and you're incredibly patient. And I should say, in confessional a little bit to Dan Rawls and to all of you, he has reached out to me so many times and I've been like, ooh, I can't right now, just let me know. But he always follows up, and he does with a whole bunch of respect for who I am and what's going on in my life. But he also follows up as a commitment to the relationship, which I actually 100% appreciate. And because of the investments that you've made in our relationship, I'm willing to say yes to you that I would never say to other people, because I feel like you've made the investments and you've made the connections that make it worth it for me to say, okay, I'll come give that a try. Or yes, I'll come to this thing that you say that you want me to come to. But my question for you, and I'd love for you to answer and share with our audience, what are some of your secrets to really good follow-up?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm really challenged about receiving compliments. So I'm kind of sweating right now that you would just say those things, because I don't receive compliments well.
You can go back and watch this as many times as you need to. I'm just kidding.
No, thank you for that. It's, and this might be shocking to the world and some people that try to sell me ClickFunnels or CRMs, customer relationship manager follow-up programs. Do you know it's all done up here?
You have an amazing mind. I forget things and you remember every detail.
I used to use something called Goldmine that was like trigonometry, and I had it for 7 years. And I've never used Outlook. I only use that for my email. I don't have a contact management system. It's all up here. It's all relationships. And whether it's texting or WhatsApp or Voxer or Facebook Messenger or LinkedIn Messenger or old school pick up the phone, you had some challenges and you're like, hey, the timing's not right. And I just reach out to you and I'm like, when can I get back to you? And I just, I believe in just following through with that. None of us are perfect, but I try to personalize those messages based on our last conversation. And it's just like, hey, are you ready to come to my meeting? Or are you ready to buy now? No, it's just like eventually people get smart and they come around. So I'm in the health and nutrition field. Eventually over 30 years, some of my guy friends they care about their health, but they don't eat so healthy. They've come around on their own. They've watched me and be like, you know what? I'm sick and tired. I need to make a change. I got to change something with my health. And I've never been pushy or salesy or creepy. It's just like, hey, here it is, And so thank you for the compliment. There's a couple of strategies. You'll have to follow up with me personally if you really want to dive into that. And no, I'm not a life coach, okay? But I like to reference like the man who owns this video store. I met him 35 months ago. How do I remember that? Just because I do. It was March. It was an event in Salt Lake City. He's a professional videographer. I remembered he's from Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to college at Appalachian State. I just remembered he was from Charlotte. He was in his late 20s. How did I remember that? I don't know. But how do I remember you that you used to print everything but money? Because I just do. Because you're either standing out or you're blending in with everybody else. And these two people here in the studio, y'all stood out. And I learned something in my 20s, early 21 years old, that the fortune's in the follow-up. And there's a lot of cliches in business that speakers and people will use, but really it's so true. It's not about the financial fortune. It's not about money. It's about, look at this. I mean, I'm sitting here, I guess, because I followed up with you with a human element of touch, not some CRM, some automated email. Like I'm blown away by that you would give me those compliments. But I guess it's just because I live what I teach. And I'm not a motivational speaker. Some people think I'm good enough to do that. Personally, I think some of the ones that have been around years and years and years, like going over 25 to 30 years, they got a great talk, but they wouldn't dare go do 90% of what they teach. And that's the difference in me, right? That's the difference in me, that I have no authority sharing with all y'all, the things that I do if I'm not willing to do it myself. I didn't learn it from some speaker, some trainer, some book I read. It's life experience. And so I'm really humbled. Thank you for your compliments. But it's follow up with people, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years later. I mean, prior to seeing you a year ago, it had been a long time. Mm-hmm. And you're running this event in front of all these professional speakers and you're the president of the organization. I'm going, oh, I knew her when. But I'm serious. I mean, that's a major compliment because you're a big deal. And I watched where you were, not that you weren't a big deal, but you're like, I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to make it big. And then she's the president of the most successful chapter of National Speakers Association. Who does that? You.
Well,
you're standing out, Michelle. You're not blending in. And I choose to follow up with people that have stood out to me.
I think even if that's the only thing that people take away, follow up with the people who are standing out and not blending in. And not that you can follow up with other people, because that would assume that we're leaving a lot of introverts on the table. But if they stand out to you, then there's a reason why they do. And you should figure out where that connection leads, even if it takes a decade or whatever.
So here's one tip, and you were kind of sharing this idea. The one tip is I have something that I've coined many years ago. I'm pleasantly persistent. I'm not bothersome.
I love that.
But when you were like, when you kept texting me and you kept following up with me, I was just
pleasantly persistent.
That was the whole needy is creepy thing, that I didn't want to be known as that, but it was just that it was a dance, and when you're ready to go to the dance with me, I'll invite you.
Great. I like it.
So
Well, it's not surprising. I had 3 other things I was going to talk to you about, but our time has come to a close. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful. How can people find you or connect with you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Dan Rawls. My email is dan@trustegrity.com. And I'm a phone call away. Just reach out to me. It all starts with one phone call, one text, one message, because that's where it all starts. You know, how many people in your social media do you really have a connection with? I've eliminated over 150 people on one of my social media outlets in the last 90 days because they were just taking up space. And I made room for y'all.
See, and I think that that's the other thing to remember here in this is that sometimes less is more. Sometimes we feel like more is more in the social media world that we live in with followers. But when it comes to connections, it's the fewer, it's the ones that rise to the top that will make the biggest difference.
How many people are you willing to give your keys to your house to?
Very few.
Right. But how many people would you trust enough to sit in a room with and be raw and vulnerable? Maybe 15 or 20. That's where I come in because it's a stepping stone to get to where you want to go.
I like it. Well, thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you for watching and being part of this special episode of Make It Happen. Okay, welcome to a little twist on my favorite things. We're going to call this favorites or flops. Okay, I need to show you a couple of things that I just got on Amazon. And it wasn't until they were home that I realized that maybe they were a flop. However, maybe to some of you, they are going to be your favorite thing. And I feel like I need to share it. And then you can vote once you decide if it's the right thing for you. So we're going to start with favorite flop, number 1. Okay. So my friend sent me this picture about this cup holder. Now, if you know me at all, you know I'm an avid fan of my beverage, which is the Diet Dr. Pepper with regular Dr. Pepper. And so she sent me this, and this is a little contraption that you wrap around, and I'll put the picture in the show notes so that you can actually see what it's supposed to do. Wrap around your suitcase handle, like imagine your roller bag and the little metal handle that comes up. This would wrap around that. And then even if your bag is tilted, I mean, your beverage is going to stay flat. Now, I got this from home to home, and I realized 2 important things about the way Michelle McCullough travels. Number 1, as much as I would love to hold a beverage, this is too small. Okay. Yes, it would hold like a 16-ounce bottle, which is what I typically do when I'm at the airport, but it's not going to hold like a 32-ounce beverage. Now, this probably will hold a cup of coffee for you coffee drinkers. And then you can just take it where you go. It doesn't have to be an extra thing in your hands, and you just wheel along your suitcase. Item number 2 that occurred to me after I got this that made me think that I wasn't going to need it is that, you know, the other place you can put a 16-ounce bottle in a backpacker bag, which I always have. So this is probably unnecessary. I'm not holding a fountain drink going through the airport. I'm just using bottles so I can take them on a plane. Item number 3 that I didn't realize until I was holding it is that I always check my bags. Always. I'm not pushing a roller bag around. If anything, I just have like a laptop bag or something with me, or just a small personal item or backpack. So this, I think, is a flop for Michelle, but maybe somebody else needs it. We'll put this in the show notes below so you can see the link. While I was buying that, because if you can have 1 beverage holder, then 2 beverage holders are better, I bought this one, which also slides. You can see that there's just a little pouch there that you can just slide onto a roller bag handle. And it has a place for 2 beverages. So like if you're a Diet Dr. Pepper drinker and you want some water, you could do that too. I actually initially got this because I thought it would be great to hold my phone. I always toss my phone in my bag and then I can never find it again. And so it would be nice to have my phone here just to wheel through the airport. But then once again, I figured out that I check my bags. And so this would probably not be used very often. So these 2 items are going back to Amazon, but maybe they will be a favorite for you. Now, you cannot end on a flop note, so I will tell you one of my favorites, which is this little Boost and Vitamin C power drink from Wink Naturals. You've probably seen Emergency, which like those little packets that you throw into a water bottle. I love these. These taste better to me. This is a company that I spoke for in January of 2022, whatever year it is we are. And I love these. They have them in like, you can buy big bulk packages that you could just keep at home, but these are great for travel. I always have a few in my travel bag. I drink them when I'm getting on a plane. I drink them while I'm gone. I do like that they give me just a little bit of a boost and the vitamin C in it at the same time. So if you're looking for something like this, it's a replacement. This berry zest, I love. It's like orange berry rather than just orange by itself. And so we'll put the link for these in below. These are just a few of my favorite things or flops. I don't know about you, but even I am thinking about new ways to connect. I have loved networking and connections over the last 20 years in business, and I can say without a doubt that it has been the best investment I have made in time and resources. So I hope you'll start to think about different ways you can up-level your marketing by making deeper connections. Thank you for being part of today's episode of Make It Happen. I am always looking for your questions, so make sure you send them in to Michelle@speakmichelle.com for our Pick My Brain segment. And I would love to see your likes, comments, and reviews so that others like you can find episodes like this and help grow their businesses and their personal life. Until we see you again next week, we're cheering you on. Make it happen.